I think Brooke is related to Saint Killingham of House Remo Shifu. The reason for me thinking this is because both characters seem to have a very interesting relationship with the animal known as the giraffe. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In chapter 1140, we are introduced to Saint Killingham of House Remo Shifu. He is a holy knight. The reason for my interest in this character is because he seems to be casually awakened all the time. He most likely has the mythical zone fruit of the Quillin or the Kirin. Now, the creature does have two names, maybe more, because the name does change depending on which culture is saying it. In Chinese, he is called the Quillin, but in Japanese, the creature is called the Kirin. With that being said, this creature is a chimera-like creature with the parts of different animals making up its body, but it always seems to be some sort of long-necked horse-like creature with hooves. The texture and the head of the creature do change depending on who's depicting it. Sometimes it looks like a dragon, sometimes it has a unicorn horn, sometimes it has the dual horns of a Chinese dragon, and sometimes it has the tail of an ox, whereas other times it has a big bushy tail. So with that being said, the reason why Killingham and Brooke are related to the giraffe is because, one, Brooke has been depicted as a giraffe before, or at least is being related to a giraffe, because in the color spread of chapter 651, his animal that's representing him is a giraffe. It's a skeletal giraffe wearing his clothes. And a lot of Straw Hats, I believe like 2 or 3, do get animal changes in this color spread, but I just wanted to point that out. Now, when it comes to Saint Killingham, things become a little more complicated because the Quillin has relations to the giraffe based on a Chinese explorer from the 15th century known as Zhang He. And excuse my pronunciation, but he took a voyage to East Africa, landing in Somalia, in which he bought 2 giraffes from some Somalian merchants. Taking them back to East China, the emperor at the time confused the creatures with the mythical creature known as the Quillin. Then this just spread throughout the years and then became the way to identify a giraffe by Korean and Japanese people who call giraffes Kirins. So that's why I think Brooke could be related to Saint Killingham. Now, you may be asking, why not the user of the ox fruit model giraffe, Kaku? Well, the reason for this is because Killingham is not square. We see when Kaku turns into a hybrid giraffe, the squareness of his nose is carried throughout his entire body, even as an awakened Zoan in Egghead. So, based on Killingham not being square, he most likely is not related to Kaku. What's interesting about Killingham possibly being related to Brooke is because we don't know anything about Brooke or even the era of which he lived, because so little is known about that era, as the only character who has any relevance even closely associated with Brooke from a similar era is Roger. And Roger is younger than Brooke, and all of Roger's associates are younger than Brooke. So there truly is a void of time in which Brooke previously existed in. So that leaves the narrative very open to interpretation as to what Brooke's origins actually are, even though he is said to be from the West Blue. We don't know anything specific about him. And we don't know when House Remo Shifu was inducted into the Holy Knights. I assume they are one of the 20 original kingdoms, but then again, we don't know where they reigned, because that could be anywhere. We don't know a lot about the original 20 families as a whole. All we know is that the Nefertiri stayed in Alabasta, right? And we know that the Don Quixotes are from Dressrosa. But as far as the rest of them go, like Shepard, Remo Shifu, Figureland, we don't know where any of them came from. So I think this could be a thread to say that somehow, some way, Brook could previously have been a part of House Remo Shifu, or he could have been a part of the kingdom that took over after House Remo Shifu left their original land. Another interesting comparison between Killingham and Brook is that both of them have the ability to induce sleep, which is quite interesting because it's most likely Killingham's ability that causes the giant children of the Walrus School to fall asleep. Then, on top of that, with Brook, causing sleep was actually a premier musical ability of his, because when he is fighting as a Straw Hat for the first time against the Flying Fish Riders, he launches out musical notes from his violin, which induce sleep amongst the Flying Fish Riders, Luffy and Chopper. So that too is a very interesting comparison. What also may or may not be true, depending on the nature of the ability, is that both of them can supposedly summon familiars or cause illusions to happen, because Brook caused illusions to appear before his enemies in Fishman Island, and on a multitude of occasions, he can apparently play music with such intensity that a apparition or further manifestation of his soul leaks out of his body as this giant ghostly form of himself, which is weird. That's never really explained. This too could be an ability of Killingham, because in chapter 1142, we see that various beasts from the nightmares of the children of the Walrus School come to life as manifested entities. Therefore, this too could be an ability attributed to Killingham, but that remains to be seen. But with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Works.